My guest today is Keith Casey. Keith, how are you?
Good. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I heard you're a troublemaker. Is that true?
Well, that's what my badge says.
It says it over and over again.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So I believe in truth in advertising.
All right. I just say that just in case there's somebody out there that doesn't know that you're a troublemaker. Now.
Yeah. It's good. It's like a warning label. Yeah.
You're I want to talk about this thing you're doing with the community Twitter accounts. Do you have a name for that?
Yes, it's my bot army.
Your bot army.
It's actually called the Tech Events Network.
I've been telling people about this because I think it's awesome. Because I go out to Cleveland and I go to Indianapolis and Chicago and Cincinnati. And
thank you for that.
I try to learn about the tech events, and it's hard. There's no central repository of tech events even for that part of the country.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you're helping that.
Yes. So rewind about 5 or 6 years ago, I was a developer evangelist with Twilio, and I had the exact same problem of I would drop into Memphis or Kansas City or wherever, and it was hard to find out what was going on. And I had, in Austin, where I'm based, I had a Twitter account called ATX, Austin, Texas, ATX Tech Events.
Right. And
I was using it to promote things, like occasionally retweet myself or some other stuff, but fundamentally I'm busy. And I had meetups that I was running, and at the same time, like when I was putting together a meetup, you organize the speaker, you get a venue, you get food, you get drinks, you get all this stuff.
1,000 details.
It's a pain in the butt.
Right.
And the last thing you think to do
is to promote
is to promote it. And sponsors get annoyed when their people don't show up to meetups that they've sponsored. So I was like, okay, how could I do this? And I was like, so Labor Day a couple years ago, I plugged into the Meetup API and Twitter API. And just sucks in all this meetup data and says, okay, tweet about this event. So like if there's a meetup tonight in Austin, it would have tweeted this morning saying, hey, there's this meetup tonight, uses Bitly link for click-through tracking and everything. And then 5 days ago, it would have tweeted saying, hey, there's this thing next week with a link.
And it knows Austin because it does like the within X miles of.
Yeah, it starts. The first version started with a zip code and radius. Every tech event within 10 miles or something like that.
Okay.
And I launched over Labor Day 2 years ago, and the first month it gained 900 followers.
Oh, wow.
I was like, whoa, I bumped into something.
It takes me like a year and a half to bump up 900 followers.
Yeah, and I was like, this is a fluke. This is not real. There's spammers, there's bots, like there's weird things. And so I was like, I bet I can't do this again. And I was trash talking myself a little bit. So I was like, okay, let's start SATX, San Antonio, Texas tech events, and DFW, Dallas Fort Worth tech events. And those both launched with like 500 the first month.
Wow.
I was like, whoa, wait a minute. So I launched Houston, and I've rolled this out across the country now in about 50 top markets.
That just tells me people are just hungry for this information.
Yeah. And so I found it's really useful from a meetup organizer's point of view.
Right.
You have to do nothing.
Right, just put it in Meetup.
Yeah, as long as you're scheduling a meetup, it picks up the information. I use the Watson API to then analyze that data and say what keywords should this tweet use, what hashtag should it use. Okay. And so when it tweets it out, like if it's a .NET Core event, it's probably going to use .NET. It's probably going to use Microsoft. It's probably going to use all those keywords. So you
threw a couple of extra hashtags in it based on that.
Yeah, exactly. And so when it finally tweets out a couple times leading up to it, it's going to hit people's radars in a variety of ways.
What tech tools and technology do you use to create it?
So I use this crazy new tool called PHP.
PHP. Why did you choose PHP?
I'm a PHP guy, and the first version I hacked together in like 8 hours, and it worked.
I always hear that.
And when something's working
in PHP, you always seem to hear those together.
So yeah. But the first version was like so easy and it just worked.
Okay.
So that was Labor Day 2015. So then, like over Christmas, as this thing was getting thousands of followers a month across the network and everything, I decided to like rewrite it from the ground up. And I also use PHP and some cron jobs, but that's when I tied in the Watson piece. So API-wise, it uses...
What does Watson use? What do you use Watson for?
So I use Watson's machine learning to do the hashtags and to identify like related entities. So if I drop something in about Apache HTTPD, it'll find out the Apache Foundation and stuff like that, just to find those associations.
Okay.
And so the APIs are Meetup, Twitter. I plug in Eventbrite. It can read RSS calendar feeds. It uses the Watson API. It uses Bitly to generate the links. It uses I've got a Slack integration now, so if you have a community Slack channel, it can broadcast in the Slack usually 3 days in advance, saying, "Hey, there's this thing coming up this week." I'm trying to think if there's other APIs. I'm an API guy, so I just plug in more stuff.
Let some piggyback on somebody else's hard work.
Yeah, exactly. That's what an API is about, right?
Exactly. So how many cities do you have covered now?
It's like 50, 51. I've kind of forgot at this point because it's very hands off.
You don't have to maintain this.
No, it runs on its own. So I hired an intern part-time I pay her for 5 hours a week to handle like customer support because we're starting to get into the point where we're doing sponsorships for events now. So we're a sponsor for that conference. For the O'Reilly Media events, we're sponsors for those. Because across the network, we generate something like 4.2, 4.3 million impressions a month now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you so you're paying out of your pocket to hire an intern for a few hours?
No, it actually generates cash flow.
How does it generate cash flow?
So this was one of the things I struggled with quite a bit because I was like, okay, how do I monetize something that A is free,
right,
and B, monetizing to developers is hard. Like coming from the Twilio side of things, coming from everything, like I know that's hard.
Right.
So I did a couple different things.
Maybe because developers are cheap.
I was not going to say that, but yes, and cheap, and we have as developers we have very little tolerance for marketing and sales.
Sure.
So I was like, okay, how do we do this respectfully and not totally burn the audience? So, so for various conferences, we do an affiliate fee. So if you click through our link to like OSCON, O'Reilly's big open source event, we make money on the ticket.
Oh, okay.
So they don't receive any additional special treatment for that, but if you click through, you've got that. In addition, we do some paid placements for I think Intel's done some hackathons with us, and Cisco and those sorts of things. So
they maybe not have this public interface like Eventbrite or
right,
Meetup. They've got their own proprietary.
Well, the interesting thing is I reached out, like when I was doing some market analysis of this, I reached out to various tech companies that were doing like traveling road shows and traveling events, like that have a lot of developer evangelists. And I said, okay, you have 100, 200,000 developers on your mailing list. What percentage of them are geocoded? When you go to Nashville, how do you reach out to the people in Nashville? And I found that between 15 to 18% of that list was geocoded.
That's not very much.
No, that's tiny.
So
that means
your service can help with that?
Well, I'm geocoded. So just inherently, if you work with me in Nashville,
okay,
here are 3,000 to 4,000 developers in Nashville that have shown an interest in meetup groups.
I see.
Within your zip
So
code.
this is an alternative to their mailing list. Instead of doing an email blast to everybody, or guessing where they are, then just tweet it.
Yeah, exactly. And then I also started automating mailing lists in each city. So you can fully opt in to a mailing list, and then I think it's every Monday morning at 9:30 local time, you get a list of, hey, here's what's coming up in the next 8 days. And there's some ad blocks down the side of like from O'Reilly, A-Press, DigitalOcean, things like that. So,
okay, you get some click-through revenue on those.
Yeah, so it's not a ton, but it's catching on.
Is Twitter still the best place for this stuff?
That's a great question. It's transient, so that's why we hit it multiple times.
Okay.
It's
transient in terms of people that are on in the morning might not be on in the afternoon.
Right, exactly. I don't know if it's the best, but it's kind of the easiest.
Okay. Any plans to expand to other? You mentioned Slack. You're doing.
Yeah. So we've got Slack integrations already. Looking at some of the chatbot systems and stuff like that. The mailing list is great. Oh, Mailchimp is the other API we're using for the mailing list. That seems to get pretty good traction. We have massive click-through rates. One of the things I'm also doing is coming from sort of my background in analyzing people's profiles online is on that mailing list, instead of just blasting out, here's everything in the next 8 days, I'm analyzing your profile to say, here's everything in the next 8 days, but here's 3 things that you will care about.
I see.
Because I want the reaction when you open the mail to be, oh, I almost forgot about that, or oh, I didn't realize that was this week. Or wait a minute, what's this thing? That seems cool. Because that gets people to open it, that gets people to forward it, that gets people to attend.
Well, it's very cool. I got to tell you, it's been a nice service for me because it helps me to find out what's going on in my community, and I'm also disseminating to people in the community to drive more feeds because I'm all about the developer community.
I appreciate
especially that. I cover a large region, and I appreciate it too.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. And before we go, you have an online presence?
Yes.
Beyond this?
Yes, a little bit of an online
51
presence.
cities?
Yeah, exactly. I'm Casey Software. That's CASEY Software. On Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Skype, everywhere. If it's me and it's tweeting about antics related to security or APIs, it's probably me.
Keith, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Why, hello. Happy to be here at that conference with a bunch of friends learning about new technology, and this is an absolute blast. So if you haven't been to that conference, come check it out.